Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, specially brought to you from North America, both MATRADE New York team and Corinthian Distributor Limited. We will further elaborate on the Canadian market, particularly its F&B industry. My name is Nyai Ayub, the Trade Commissioner of MATRADE New York. We'll moderate the session today. And with me, I have three panelists, and they are Mr. John Melanie. John, okay. Marketing Officer of MATRADE New York, Mr. Vincent Uy, President and Founder of Corinthian Distributor Limited, and also Mr. Kenneth Goh, Vice President of Canadian Distributor Limited. Our session today comprises of a few segments for a better flow of the information to help our audience understand further each of the topics that we will discuss today. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Canada is a new export market to majority Malaysian exporters. Not much known by Malaysians about this market, but it is one of the most important markets in North America. Last year, Canada exports increased 1.9% to reach 997 billion US dollar, and the imports grew 2.9% to reach over 1 trillion US dollar. When it comes to their trade policy, Canada's trade policy is based on three mutually reinforcing priorities. The first priority is support for a strong, rule-based multilateral trading system, as they are members of WTO, APEC, G7, G20, and also CPTPP. The second priority is trade diversification. Canada currently has 14 bilateral and regional FTA in force, covering 51 countries and nearly two-thirds of global GDP. Canada Indo-Pacific Strategy, which was launched in late 2022, recognizes the Indo-Pacific as an important area for Canada's global trade and security, responding to geopolitical shift and also challenges. The third priority is inclusive trade that involves various business communities, which include underrepresented groups such as women, small and medium-sized enterprises, and indigenous people. Canada is not our top 10 trading partners at the moment, but there are a lot of opportunities waiting for us to explore. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with our session today. John will walk through the current status of our bilateral trade with Canada. Will you please, John?
Thank you very much, Ms. Nai, for that introduction.
Regulation in Canada. So, how do you help this supplier?
We are excited to share this presentation with you. In our part of this webinar, we will be giving you an overview of Malaysia's growing bilateral trade with Canada, especially in the food and beverage market. We will give you a synopsis of the Canadian food and beverage industry, where this robust and wealthy market provides opportunities for Malaysian exporters to increase its export sales and its market share. So to start, let's take a look at the state of Malaysia's overall bilateral trade with Canada. Over the past 5 years, Malaysia's total trade with Canada has reached 3.78 billion US dollars, which is an increase of 5.8% from the previous year and 32.6% increase from 2020. Canada's imports from Malaysia have increased to 2.82 billion. I'm sorry, these are billions, my mistake. By the end of 2024, this is a 9.2% increase from year on year and a 23.6% increase. The main drivers for Malaysia's exports to Canada are in electronics and electronic parts, cocoa butter and palm oil, and its derivatives. And as for Canada's exports to Malaysia, They stood at 960 million at the end of 2024, a 6.4% increase from the previous year, and a 62.4% increase over the past 5 years. The main exports that Canada sends to Malaysia are in agricultural products like wheat and soybean, and chemicals like potassium chloride. So at the end of 2024, Malaysia was Canada's 23rd largest trading partner and 22nd largest source of imports. But I would like to make note of this section right here, which shows that the latest updated trade statistics between Canada and Malaysia from the January and June period of 2025. And you will see that the numbers for 2025 have jumped up significantly. Total trade is up by 23.6% this year. Canadian imports from Malaysia are up by 18.7%. Should these trends continue, by the year's end, Malaysia could be a top 20 trading partner for Canada, a top 20 trading source. All in all, Malaysia is becoming a significant trading partner with Canada. To zoom in onto the Canadian food and beverage trade, in 2024, Malaysia was Canada's 17th largest food and beverage source, a 85.3% increase from year on year up to $193 million. And following the general trade trends that were showed in the previous slide, Malaysia's current food and beverage exports as of June 2025, Malaysia is now the 12th largest source of food and beverage for Canada. This is a 111% increase, and it's driven by an increase in cocoa butter exports. You will see the main export categories for Malaysia in food and beverage exports to Canada. The largest category are in cocoa butter, where 71% of all food and beverage exports are, and in shortening and margarine, where Malaysia is the second largest source. These two exports focus on Canada's very large confectionery manufacturing industry. When it comes to retail food products, the two biggest areas where Malaysia exports to Canada are in pasta, like instant noodles and ramen, and in cookies and biscuits. So why has Malaysia become such an important trading partner with Canada over the past couple of years, and especially over this last year? There are three particular developments which have given Malaysia significant advantages in the Canadian market. First off, the U.S. tariffs that have been slapped on Canadian exports into the U.S. have resulted in Canadian tariffs on U.S. imports as well. They're in the middle of a trade war. This is forcing Canadian companies to diversify their sourcing away from U.S. sources. They are very reliant on U.S. imports. Over 75% of what they import comes from the U.S. So they are looking to diversify their sourcing away from the U.S., which leads to the second part, which is Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy, which was announced in 2022. It is a stated policy for Canada to focus on expanding its trade and investment in the region, which leads us to the third, the CPTPP, which Malaysia and Canada are both signatories of. This gives Malaysian exports duty-free access to the Canadian market. We will expand more on this in the next section when we go over the Canadian food and beverage industry. But I now give it back to Ms. Naidi.
Okay, thank you so much, John. Sorry about that. We are delighted today to have representative from the Corinthians Distributor Limited, based in Vancouver, Canada. We have vast experience in bringing specialty food and beverages to Canada, tapping into Asian population. And now they are expanding to a bigger consumer base. Today, they will share with us their experience and some advice that Malaysian companies can refer to as their future guidance in entering the market. I am pleased to invite Mr. Vincent to introduce their company. Please, Mr. Vincent.
Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Nai. Yes, I'm Vincent from Corinthian Distributors. We started the business in 1994 here in Canada. So this is our 31st year in business. Prior to that, I had 10 years experience in the Philippines in the food and beverage industry. I worked for the largest food and beverage manufacturer in the Philippines, handling key accounts for supermarkets and the food service industry. So in 1994, as I mentioned, we set up the business in Canada. We started off as selling to independent stores, corner stores in Vancouver. And within a few years, realized that there was an opportunity to expand the business further. We started offering our products to the larger independent stores, including Asian stores. So we started off as focusing strictly on the Filipino market because that's where were originally from, and that was what we knew. But we realized early on that there was a crossover potential with a number of the products we were importing. So we found out and realized that a number of these products were being bought by Southeast Asian consumers as well. So we started expanding it to as I mentioned, larger independents, Asian stores, Chinese, Vietnamese stores. And from there on, our business just started growing. Within a few years, we realized, and the larger Canadian chains realized that considering the um, growth of immigration from Southeast Asia, the Canadian consumers were changing, and a lot of the immigrant consumers from Southeast Asia and from other countries were beginning to shop regularly in Canadian mainstream supermarkets. So, so when they realized this, they said, "We cannot miss out on the certain on this particular segment because the Canadian immigrant population, or what they call the visible minority population, uh, was growing in Canada back then and still grows up to now. Back then, it was roughly about 15% in 1994 of the Canadian population, meaning visible minority people who don't look Caucasian or white. So we were called visible minority, and that was projected to grow over the years. And Canadian supermarkets started realizing that if they don't pay attention to this segment, they will lose out uh, on the business. So we started off our first Canadian supermarket or grocery chain from that opportunity. Uh, so we start we so 20 years ago we realized that we had to go after this market, and the retail chains also realized that. So it was one step after the other. Uh, we started off with one regional chain based in Vancouver, uh, and from then on, the business. Once you establish the reputation, and as the visible minority population grew, more of the Canadian supermarket chains or grocery chains realized that they had to expand their shelf offerings to include more of what we call international products. Yeah. So just to let you know, I believe the visible minority population right now is about 35% for the for for Canada. So the market continues to grow. That's why the supermarket and grocery chains pay a lot of attention to this segment. What are the opportunities of this? Initially, when we started offering the products or importing the products, it was for a specific uh, market, meaning Filipino. As I mentioned earlier, we noticed that the Southeast Asian market, people from Hong Kong or Taiwan or Malaysia or Vietnam, were beginning to buy our products as well. Not all, but certain product lines interested them, specifically beverages, and confectionery as items as well. So we realized that we were also growing, not just with our core market, but with Southeast Asian consumers as well. So this is, uh, this was an opportunity that we could not uh, ignore. Yeah. So, uh, so as the years went by, more and more Canadian supermarket chains um, were interested in our line, and we were able to expand to a nationwide distribution in key markets across the Canada. So we deal with the major retail chains in central Canada, in Western Canada, and parts of Atlantic Canada where there is a visible minority population, especially from Asia. Yeah. So, so once we started that, if you want to fast forward to the present day, we do a lot of marketing campaigns for the products we distribute. For products we distribute on a nationwide basis, we have social media campaigns specifically targeting uh, um, not just the core market, but trying to encourage trial of our products by uh, other groups, other how do you call that, ethnic groups, including the mainstream. So we did that for noodles line, for the beef line, corned beef line, and we found out that because the Canadian consumers are getting more sophisticated, there's a lot of interest for uh, multicultural products because our kids go to school, they meet children from other cultures around the world, and sometimes over lunch, he can't help it. They share food, even at work. You meet people from different countries, and inevitably, you not just share the kind of you don't just share work, you share the food. So this has made Canadians very curious about food from other cultures. For a significant part of the population, this has made them more curious and willing to try. Of course, not all will try, but there's a growing and significant number of Canadians that are willing to try foreign foods, especially the younger crowd. Uh, I think the younger crowd, they grew up in elementary, high school, university, meeting kids their age from other cultures. This has fueled interest in other um, um, countries' food, uh, which is inevitable because you not only study together, you get invited to the homes to have play dates, and play dates, you have snacks, then you try different culture, food from a different culture.
All
So
right.
having realized that, we designed our campaigns to target specific groups that would be interested in trying other cultures, food
All
from
right.
other cultures. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Vincent. That is a very interesting introduction of Canadian Distributor Limited, how they started and what they are right now and where they are right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me try to bring back to the food and beverages industry in Canada, in which this industry is one of the important industries to Canada. It provides food security and generates income to the country through both domestic economy and international trade. F&B industry is divided into two major segments. The first segment is manufacturing and the other segment is retail sales. Based on Farm Credit Canada (FCC), they forecast the overall FMB sales in 2025 will reach 168.8 billion US dollar. Well, this is a little bit a slight increase of 0.6% from last year. So I go back to you, John. Will you be able to share the Canada's F&B industry from a micro perspective, please?
I certainly will. Happy to do it, and thank you very much, Ms. Nai. So here we're going to provide an overview of the Canadian food and beverage industry. The overall size of the Canadian food and beverage market in 2004 was $159 billion. Canada is a G20 nation. It is the 9th largest economy in the world based on GDP. It has an ethnically diverse population, high living standard, and a high demand for food and beverage, with 24.6 billion in imports for 2024. That's the 8th largest demand in the world. This is a robust, wealthy market for food and beverage imports, and Malaysia is in a good position to increase its market share. So we go back to the three advantages that were brought up in the previous segment: U.S. tariffs, Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy, and the CPTPP. Now we're going to use cocoa butter as an example. So the new U.S. tariffs have increased the cost of importing cocoa butter for U.S.-based confectionery manufacturers. Now, Canada and the U.S. have intertwined economies. Many large U.S. corporations and manufacturers, especially in food and beverage, have facilities in Canada. So for a large U.S.-based manufacturer, say, for example, Hershey's, it would make sense to shift significant production to their Canadian facilities. With Canada's focus on the Indo-Pacific region and working with CPTPP duty-free nations such as Malaysia, they can import cocoa butter from Malaysia, make their chocolate in Canada, and since the production would change the tariff code, the chocolate would fall under the USMCA, which would make it duty-free to export back into the United States. So expect an even higher increase of cocoa butter imports coming from Malaysia to Canada. So that's just an example of how these three facets give Malaysia a particular advantage in the Canadian industry. So the product opportunities that we see in Canada's food and beverage market are based on our interactions with importers, include cookies, biscuits, sauces, non-alcoholic beverages, and snacks like chips and crackers. You see I've highlighted in the opportunities healthy snacks. There's an emphasis with Canadian customers for snacks that have healthier ingredients. So, for example, if you have chips that use chickpeas or vegetables instead of potato, or crackers that have whole grains, or dried fruits or dried beans like edamame, they would find ready acceptance in the Canadian market. Consumer trends that we see in the Canadian food and beverage market are a focus on healthier foods with ethically sourced ingredients, think like fair trade certification or non-GMO, fruit-flavored beverages and waters, quick and easy to make meals, both men and women work in the Canadian market, and an openness to diverse flavors. As was mentioned by Vincent, the younger generation is more open to different types of flavors. But that being said, on the subject of flavors, I just like to note something about Canada's, about the receptiveness to diverse flavors. Now, Canada is very diverse, and they are open to certain flavors, Asian flavors like sriracha, for example, with their snacks. But one of the most popular flavors in Canada, and it's unique to their market, and it's something called all dress. And it's a mix of ketchup, barbecue, sour cream, salt, and vinegar. It's like all thrown together on the chip. It is constantly rated as the most popular flavor in Canada. So if you're a snack company and you want to find a way to get into this market on a broad-based way, any company that can figure out this particular flavor would find success in appealing to a broader consumer base. And you need to do that because there are challenges in this market, in the Canadian market, as our guest company will expound on. There are high quality content and certification standards for food and beverages that are sold in Canada, similar in some respects to when you try to send food and beverage products to the US market. Despite tariffs and the desire to diversify sourcing, Canada is still very heavily dependent on US trade. And Canada has a small population, about 1/10 the size of the US, and it's more geographically dispersed. So these factors make Canada's retail market heavily competitive and largely consolidated. we note the major retailers, and of the five of them, Loblaws, Sobeys, Metro, and the Walmart and Costco Canadian headquarters, they comprise of nearly 80% of the total retail grocery market. Although we would like to point out in the highlighted section, P&T supermarkets, there are a large chain of Asian-focused stores that source Southeast Asian goods. And lastly, we want to make a note about the halal market in Canada. It is a rapidly expanding sector. It's currently valued at over $1 billion, and it's projected to reach as high as $4.3 billion by 2029, according to the Canadian Halal Bureau. The growth of this is fueled by a combination of factors, including a growing Muslim population, which is currently at 2.7%, and increased awareness of the quality of halal standards among non-Muslim consumers who, again, are looking for health-conscious and ethical food choices. And in the Canadian halal market, Malaysian goods, the Malaysian halal logo, is recognized for its quality, reliability, and high standards. And all of this makes the Canadian food and beverage market a very enticing opportunity for Malaysian food and beverage companies. I pass it back now to Ms. Knighty.
Right. Thank you, John. Mr. Kenneth and Mr. Vincent, as an importer, there are a lot of key information kept by the company, of which among others are the current market trends, demand, and also the right distribution channels for F&B market. Quarantine is kind enough to share with us today on this particular information from their perspective as an importer. Would you like to elaborate further on the Canadian market, Mr. Kenneth or Mr. Vincent? Thank you.
I will share my screen. So we'll go through our import requirements. Okay, so market entry and sourcing requirements from an importer's perspective. Like going back to what Vincent and John mentioned, I mean, there are so many opportunities for other countries' food to be imported into Canada. I mean, what we've noticed so far after COVID, a lot of people went out of the country, not only in Canada, but I think worldwide travel has increased significantly. And with that significant increase in global travel, people try cuisines of the places where they visit. So people would go to Japan, people would go to Malaysia, people would go to Thailand, people would go to the Philippines, and they will try the food. And when they like the food, they try to source it from, when they go back home, they would try to source it from their own country. Unfortunately, some products may not be available, and some products may be available. So it's our job as an importer to see what the trends are in our respective countries and see what we can bring in. But generally, we look at certain foods like beverages, ready-to-eat meal, which is the current trend, considering the fact that North American habits. I mean, there are so many things that you do in a certain day that we always look for a quick and easy way to prepare our meals. That's why we're always looking for ready-to-eat meals. Aside from that, also ready-to-drink beverages. So just going through the importer's requirement, right? So before importing, we know your food. I mean, that's one thing that we have to look at. And as the Canadian company, I mean, we are regulated by the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and that's where the regulations come in. And then we have a very, very stringent process for selecting an appropriate foreign supplier, because that supplier has to prove that the food that they manufacture is safe. But considering the fact that the Canadian Food Inspection Agency has passed the burden of compliance to the importer, it is our responsibility as an importer to make sure that the companies that we deal with have these preventive control plan in process. So because we also have to deal with complaints and recalls should something should a problem arise with the food that we import, and of course the most important thing is, as a Canadian company, we have to have a license to import. Okay. On the other side, after the import process, we need to make sure that we are able to trace the products that we import and where it goes to. And then we have to maintain our preventive control plan and implement a complaints and recall uh, process, even if though there's it hardly happens, but we always try to do sort of a mock-up uh, recall
Mock
procedure
recalls.
just to make sure that we're able to follow the procedure within a short period of time. So before what we do, in terms of what we need, what we're looking for, generally the food must meet the general food safety requirements as per Safe Food for Canadians regulations, labeling, and compliant with the rules of other governing bodies. As an importer, we have to present a preventive control plan, a recall and complaints procedure, of course, our license to import. So the procedure requires that the food that we have to bring in must be compliant with the rules and regulations of Canada. And there are only certain like foods. There are certain foods that are regulated, such as meat and shellfish. Like we are only allowed to import meat in certain countries, and also shellfish, as well as in terms of dairy. Most of the dairy products that we want to look at should may require a quota and may not be suitable in terms of cost to bring into Canada. Like one particular quirk in the Canadian Food Inspection Agency is that like instant noodles must be the wheat for the instant noodles must be an enriched using enriched wheat flour. I mean, that's one of the things that people should know. Basically, whatever is made of wheat flour must be enriched when we have to import it in Canada. And another quirk that we have here is that food that is fortified with vitamins like snacks and beverages may not be allowed entry into the Canadian market. Any questions so far?
I think we are good.
Okay. Anyway, so what do we always look for, or what do we always tell our partner suppliers? One, the core labeling requirements are necessary. First of all, Canada is a bilingual country. There are two official languages, that is English and French. So all food labels must contain both French and English. So that means the common name must be both in English and French. So would be the country of origin, the date markings, and storage instructions.
So
Uh,
everything on the list.
yeah, the list of ingredients and allergens, the net quantity. I mean, the nutrition labeling, although it may be similar to the US, it's different. I mean, we have our own nutritional label requirements. And lately, they've added a front of uh, upfront labeling requirement on the product that says that if your product is high in salt, sugar, or another thing, you have to label it in the front of package.
So it looks similar to the US label, but it is not. So they cannot translate from a have a US nutrition table and just translate it into French. It looks similar, but from the requirements are different. For example, the US requires, I believe, to a 2,000 calorie intake a day. Canadian equivalent is 1,600. So it's not included in the label, if you notice. So they cannot do a direct translation from a US nutrition label to uh, and translate it to French. No, that is not acceptable. They have to follow this standard.
So another thing that we should take note is that, I mean, if you claim that your product is high in fiber, it has to follow the Canadian definition of what is high in fiber. Or if your label says that you have a high vitamin C, then it has to follow the Canadian definition of what is high in vitamin C would mean. I mean, you cannot claim that your product is can cure diabetes or can cure heart problems. Those are banned claims in the labeling. So yeah, basically that's what we all look for in our suppliers.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Kenneth. If I may, we can go back one step back. Because just now during the introduction, Mr. Vincent mentioned about the expansion of Corinthian, right? And you are looking for more products right now. So, can you at least elaborate further what types of product that Corinthian are interested in bringing into Canada right now, apart from what you already have?
Actually, what we're looking at right now is we look at ready to eat meals and ready to drink beverages. I mean, some because as I mentioned earlier, first the time limitation per day of a person or a family here. People have lots of activities. People go to work. People go to school, and after work and school, I mean, some parents have activities for children like sports or music classes or extra remedial classes. So time to prepare food is limited. So it's always good to look for ready to eat meals which you can prepare in less than 10 minutes. At the same time, you have to look at whether these food are healthy or not. Of course, the
Mm-hmm.
healthier it is, the better it is for the families. And beverages are always are always what people look for. I mean, there are so much trends in the beverage market today. Like there's those carbonated tea drinks and those zero calorie drinks that are available in the market, which we found out that Malaysia has, and a lot of instant noodles, which Malaysia also manufactures.
All
Yeah,
right. That,
and
that is a very interesting. Yeah. Yes, Mr.
yeah, we
Vincent.
yeah, we noticed that the consumers, especially the younger ones, they're more adventurous. They're not just looking at beverages; they're looking at other types of food like snacks. or instant noodles. Just look at outside Malaysia. The hot thing right now is Korean noodles. The the ramen noodles from Korea. We go to the supermarket. We see all types of people from different backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds, buying the food. Instant noodles, the same thing. The mee goreng is the same thing. So that's what we're looking for. Uh, because they're very adventurous. They're tight for time. They have busy lifestyles, high cost of living, busy lifestyles. All of this is driving uh, them to buy food that's way more convenient to consume. Uh, and we find that beverages, again, noodles and snack items,
Yeah.
and cookies to some extent uh, fit fit the bill. Mm.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, everything is about convenience, but without compromising on our health as well, right? They are looking for something
Yeah.
healthy, convenient for everyone. Yeah, that's very
Yeah.
good. Well, John, our office, MATRADE New York, we receive a lot of inquiries lately,
Mm.
both from Malaysian exporters and also Canadian importers. Malaysian companies, they want to know whether their products can be accepted in Canada or whether there is demand in Canada. While Canadian importers, they want to know what Malaysia can offer. So from our office for the past 1 or 2 years, which types of products that we receive the most inquiries from these two importers and exporters? Maybe you can share a bit about that.
Certainly, I certainly can. So over the past 1 or 2 years, the increase that we get from Malaysian exporters in regards to food and beverage items that they like to sell to Canada are usually in the cooking pastes or cooking sauces, which kind of lead to the ready to eat type of meals. They're quick and easy to cook. So we got a lot of inquiries from Malaysian companies looking to sell that to the Canadian market. We do get inquiries to sell coconut water, which is a popular beverage in Canada, especially during their brief summer months. Also, coconut cream for cooking. We do get requests to sell snack foods, particularly organic or natural snack foods, which I think has a good opportunity. Um, Fruit, durian, particularly frozen fruits like durian. We've gotten inquiries to get that sold in Canadian markets, and a lot of frozen items, like especially frozen seafood, microwavable meals. We get inquiries from the Malaysian side. From the Canadian side, we do seem to get a lot of traders who inquire looking for palm oil cooking oil. And we get a lot of that. But that's not necessarily for the Canadian market. It's just traders in Canada that sell to other places. As far as retail is concerned, we have gotten inquiries for beverages, particularly carbonated beverages and carbonated waters, and also for sauces as well, for cooking sauces. So there's somewhere where the two can, find, can find a way to sell to. And also snacks, a lot of potato chips, crackers, stuff like that. We got a lot of Canadian companies looking for those as well.
All right. Thank you so much, John. Well, coming back to the market entry and also regulation and requirements, I believe that you came across there's a lot of interesting products out there, Mr. Kenneth and also Mr. Vincent, and you are interested to bring this product into Canada. But looking at the Canadian market entry requirement, which is some they're very unique to Canadian market, right? Like you mentioned.
Yes.
What happened? Let's say you have interested in certain product, but the supplier at this moment, your product or your company does not meet either standard, specification, or regulation in Canada. So, how do you help this supplier in terms of to ensure that their products, the product of interest, are able to enter the Canadian market. How do you help supplier in this matter?
We actually work closely with them. Like, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, if it's a simple matter of, like, let's say, removing the vitamins and minerals for a certain beverage, and if they can easily do it, I mean, there were some who mentioned that they can easily do it. So we can have a special, specifically product that's special for the Canadian market. I mean, we've worked with one of, like, for example, when we look at an ingredients list, like for instant noodles, we always pay attention to meat content because uh, basically what we want to see is there should be no, you know, in the flavoring, even though it's a component only of the flavoring, like let's say it's chicken oil, right? Or beef oil
Beef fat.
or beef fat. We always, we will ask the manufacturer if they can remove it and replace it with an ingredient which is artificial. I mean, if they can
Mm-hmm.
do it, then it would make it easier for us. Of course, it would require a lot of work on their part. It may take longer, but we'd rather not run the risk of having CFIA reject the whole shipment. We're investing money. That's and we
All
want,
right.
yeah, and we want that product to be successful in the market.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah, what we're trying to avoid too, like what Kenneth said, is CFIA getting involved, because once there's a recall, it goes into record, and when people Google and check the brand, they'll say, "Oh, there was a recall." Regardless of what the circumstances are, the recall casts a negative light on the brand. So we want to do everything right from the start. Yeah. So
Okay.
so there's no no room for surprises.
That's right. There's no room for surprises unless it's a good surprises, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and this is a good surprises, which brings more opportunities and businesses. All right. In addition to that, John, normally we receive inquiries from Malaysian exporters in which they request our office, MATRADE New York, to introduce either their company or their product to the Canadian market or to the importers. Okay, once you receive this kind of inquiry from Malaysian companies, normally what do you do, John?
Yeah, so the key thing to know is that we do not give out importer contact information to Malaysian sellers due to privacy laws. So we can't just send you a list of importers for you to contact. So what we will do for you is that we ask any Malaysian company that inquires or sends us an inquiry to please send us a profile of your company, a short one, about 3 to 5 pages max, in a PowerPoint presentation. And it needs to touch on your products that you offer, your capacity, your certification, your current export markets, and it needs to be in English. If you send that to us, and then what we do is we compose an introductory email introducing your company and attaching your profile, and then we send them to our lists of importers for that particular product in Canada. And then we follow up with those companies. And should any companies get back to us and show interest, and then we will put you two together and we will conduct a virtual meeting that we will host with the exporter that showed interest in your product. And that's how we help connect you guys.
All right, yeah. Okay. Back to Mr. Kenneth and also Mr. Vincent. Quarantine is expanding your business. Apart from receive inquiries, for example, from Malaysian exporters or whoever from other countries that they want to sell the product in Canada, in which they pitch to you. Well, is there any other platform that you try to find suppliers yourself? What kind of activities or things that you do in terms of finding a good suppliers? Can you explain a little bit about how do you find, you know, good suppliers? Do you reach out to them? Which platform that normally you use?
Actually, one of the
Consulates.
usually, yeah, consulates, definitely
Mm-hmm.
trade. We always look at who's exhibiting at the trade shows and look at the exhibitors, and then we go through a list. I mean, it was an extensive list. We actually started looking since maybe January of this year, and
Mm-hmm.
then we prepare. I mean, if there are trade shows that are available that we can go to, I mean, we will go because nothing beats a face-to-face meeting. I
Yeah, you
mean,
are right.
yeah. I mean, it's good that MATRADE has introduced us to some suppliers. I mean, which we meet via video. At the same time, it gives us a good idea of what the manufacturer can do and probably perhaps what we can do for the manufacturer as well. But definitely, trade shows would be a good source of information. At the same time, we look at food trends and see, what are the foods that are trending and see where they're coming from, and look if there's a Canadian distributor or a Canadian importer bringing that food in. If not, we try to source where that food is manufactured.
Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's just as simple as going to the supermarket and looking at the labels from
Oh, all
so
right.
if
That is
it's an
interesting.
independent importer doing it
Mhm.
and maybe in a small quantity, so we check out the label. Let's try getting in touch with this company.
All right. Okay. All right, John. Can you share some of the good? I would say good means sizable trade shows in North America that maybe Malaysian company can join in future to introduce their product in this market.
Absolutely, because as Mr. Vincent and Mr. Kenneth said, it is very important for face-to-face meetings, and trade shows are a great way to do it. The big food and beverage show in Canada is SIAL. That's SIAL. That is the big one in Canada. It alternates between Toronto and Montreal every year, and in 2026 it will be in Montreal. Again, when I mentioned the intertwined economies, the U.S. and Canada have lots of businesses, and and they share different locations. So there are plenty of U.S. food and beverage shows where Canadian buyers go to all the time. Major ones that come to mind are the winter and summer fancy food shows. Winter is in San Francisco, summer is in New York City. There's the National Restaurant Show in Chicago if you want to go for the food service market. There is a Private Label Manufacturing Association show in Chicago. That is if you are looking for OEM private label opportunities. The America's Food and Beverage Show in Miami Beach is a big one. And there's the Natural Products Expo over in Los Angeles, especially if you have healthy snacks that you want to promote. Canadian buyers, they're right next door. They're our neighbors to the north. They come to these shows all the time. And then you want to do the international food and beverage shows where everybody shows up. There's Nuga in Germany, which is huge. Go Food in Dubai, FoodX in Japan. MIHAS. Definitely do MIHAS. They definitely come to MIHAS. That's another one. That's another big show as well. So those are the big shows that
Yes.
you should look into being present at.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Let's move to the other topic. All right. There is another angle that often left out by either one or both exporters and importers, especially exporters that are exporting their brands. This is about how to sustain in the market. We already know about how to enter the market, but what about sustaining in the market? To ensure a strong presence of your product and brands in the market, closer collaborations and commitment from both parties are required in product marketing or branding. Well, product marketing not only to acquire more customers, but also brand loyalty and business growth. According to Statista, Canada's annual digital ad spending is around 16.19 billion Canadian dollar. Many businesses across Canada has been using social media in recent years, in which 60.7% of Canadians using social media platforms for brand outreach. And 22.9% of Canadians follow companies and brands they purchase from. So, Mr. Kenneth, there are plenty of powerful digital tools to engage with consumers nowadays. Does Corinthian embark or onboard any social media platforms or e-commerce marketplaces to reach out to your consumer?
Actually, yes, we do. Let me just share my screen. Okay, so we have marketing campaigns that we do. We started the marketing campaign way back in 2021, uh, right after COVID, because we wanted to find.
Great.
I mean, during the COVID years, the demand for product was very very high because people stayed at home and didn't go places, so all they had to do was stock on food and eat food. So we thought that maybe when the restrictions were over, I mean, the demand would taper. So we had to embark on a marketing campaign for some of our major products, to be able to not only sustain the demand for the product, but also to try to attract other users. I mean, the Canadian market is very unique in the sense that, as Vincent mentioned, that out of a population of 40 million, I think about 10 million
35%
are te- about 10%
10
are
million are
of of other ethnic origins.
visible
So,
minority.
yeah, or visible minority, as what they would like to call. So we've tied up with a marketing agency to help us create campaigns for our products. I mean, just for example, like, we use right now we're using Instagram, Facebook. Before we use TikTok. I think maybe TikTok has been lying low a bit here in Canada, but we definitely look at these platforms to attract more users.
Yeah.
So, as an example, I mean, we have a corned beef line which we can play a bit here. Uh,
Let me show you one of my favorite Hong Kong style corned beef and egg sandwich. Let's get started. Some people mix in the corned beef with the egg, but I like to have it separate so you get more of that corned beef. Yeah, let's see. Mhm. Mm.
so in this particular case, we partnered up with students from Simon Fraser University to promote our ice cream brand.
Who is the biggest rapper from Toronto?
Drake.
Yep. You put down. Whoever wins this challenge gets a coupon for a free tub of Halal ice cream. What degree is a right angle, or how many degrees in a right angle?
90.
You up? True or false? Halal ice cream is made with local BC dairy.
No.
True? Yeah. What element symbol on the periodic table is Mg?
No. What is that?
Close.
Magnetic? I don't know.
Close.
I know that. Vanadium?
Yeah, you see magnesium. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. You got it. Where are the Olympics hosted this year?
Japan?
Nope.
French?
There you go. Who invented the light bulb? What is 14 times 5? This one might take a second. 14 times 5.
70?
No. Yes, sorry. Yes. So I said no. Yes.
So there's another one that I'd like to share as well.
Consider that Quarantine is also very active with your social media campaign, right?
Yes.
So Instagram is more, we target a lot of the young crowd with Instagram, the younger, more adventurous. Facebook is a bit older. They're a bit more stale. But Instagram, you target the young users, a non-traditional market. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So one of the influencers that we approach is Grill Hunters. He made a special reel for corned beef, and if you look at the metrics on the Facebook reel, it hit about 2.4 million views. So practically went viral for this particular reel.
Yeah, not just viral. We could see, not right away, over time, the numbers, the volume picking up in certain markets of the country.
Correct.
And the manufacturer was getting some letters of inquiry. In some cases, if they don't live in a big town or big city in Canada, they say, "Where can we buy this?" So they'll pass on the information to us, and we'll find out. Oh, you live in this area, and the closest store is so and so. So, and that's just from people who were engaging. So not to include those who like it and are buying or are trying and did not reach out. So yeah. So you can tell. And the New Zealanders were very happy because they were getting feedback from what they saw was a not a potential market for them. So basically, they thought the product was just for initially South Asian community, Filipino community. Then we expanded to Southeast Asian, and they were getting a lot of feedback from the what we call people with surnames with white Anglo-Saxon surnames. That's the term we use. And they were very surprised and very happy that we were able to tap that segment. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, we only have time for one video. Kenneth, are you sharing the video? No?
I can share
Or
the
that
video.
yes. We only have a time for one video.
Okay. Let me just go back.
So I believe the suppliers were so happy with the result of your social media campaign, right? All right.
Yeah. The owner visited us twice last year and
Okay, that's
sent their
great.
staff over. Yeah.
All
So
right.
you can see the video,
One of the
right?
results was the store chains increased their placement in the stores.
All right.
So they
Okay,
added
that's good.
about 100 more stores in Quebec.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right. Is the video ready?
Yeah, it is. It's you can see the video, right?
No, I can't.
No.
Oh,
That's okay, Kenneth.
maybe it doesn't want to share the
All right.
Instagram.
Okay. It's okay. All right. Um, I think that's quite interesting in terms of social media marketing done by your team, which I believe that it produced a very good result for your suppliers and Corinthian as well. Well, in promoting the industry and connecting F&B industries player around the world, particularly in halal industry, MATRADE once again is proudly organizing the international sourcing program in conjunction with the Malaysia Halal Showcase or MIHAS on 17 September 2025 at MITEC, Kuala Lumpur. So Corinthian, as one of the premium buyers for the INSP MIHAS this year, what are your advice to Malaysian suppliers in preparing themselves for the business meeting?
I think definitely one thing that we are going to look for is show what your top selling products are. We would need market information not only from the local Malaysian market but also from the international markets that they sell to. Definitely the factory certifications. Basically, we are looking for company that are ISO 22000 certified or at least, but at least they should have also HACCP certification as well.
At the minimum.
At the minimum. So I mean, they should be ready with the samples that that they would like to sell to us, and and they should be open to work with us because one thing for sure, I mean, it's not like the US market. The Canadian market is a little bit more stringent, and considering the fact that we have to go through the hurdles of doing a bilingual label, a Canadian nutrition label, and all these labels that we require, it would take anywhere from 3 to 6 months to onboard a product.
All
Yeah,
right. Thank you
going
so
back
much.
to the bilingual label, it may sound tedious, like the corned beef. The corned beef campaign was very well received in Quebec, French-speaking Quebec. And because of the campaign, Loblaws added about 70 more stores, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, added 70 more stores in the province of Quebec. So
All right.
there are positives that can come out. We're not saying it will happen every time, but you can never tell. Yeah. So the labeling has to be right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Okay, John, there is any message from you to Malaysian exporters or sellers that will be attending INSP MIHAS in MITEC this year?
Yes, there definitely is. And my message would be the 3 R's, but we're not talking about reading, writing, and arithmetic. So we're going to start with R number 1, register. Register for MIHAS and take advantage of this program. Please sign up both for the physical one-on-one business matching portion on September 17th and sign up through our Madani platform to be also able to have virtual meetings with companies throughout the world. This is your opportunity. Please register. The second R, research. Do your homework. You're going to get a list of companies that we're going to be having you meet if you're going to be part of this physical session or if we line up a virtual meeting for you. Research the buyer. Look at their websites, know what they're looking to do, know what they're looking for, and also research the market as well. Know where they're selling. And you could always contact our offices or any MATRADE offices to learn about the market of this particular importer so you can know so you can have your research then. Do your homework because that'll be the third one, the third R, which is be ready. Have a message. Why there are thousands of potato chip manufacturers in the world. Why should Corinthian buy your potato chips? Was it your pricing? Is it your shipping? Or is it your quality? Is it your ingredients? Your product selection? Come up with a message after doing your homework so you know you're talking to. If Corinthian wants to hear about gummies, they don't want to know about your ice cream or anything like that. Know who you're talking to and know what your message is going to be. So those are 3 R's: register, research, and be ready, and take full advantage and meet terrific companies like Corinthian at these events, and it'll be a great success.
All right, that's good. Remember, Malaysian seller, 3R when you are, attend any meetings or when you would like to approach any importers out there. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we end our session here. My biggest appreciation to Mr. Vincent, Mr. Kenneth from Corinthian Distributor Limited Canada for their valuable insight shared during this session. And also to our New York team, MATRADE New York team, Mr. John Melanie, in sharing the current status of bilateral trade relations with Canada and also some advice, very good advice to our Malaysian companies. With that, thank you so much, everyone. We see you next time.
Thank you very
Bye-bye.
much for having us.
Thank you
Yes,
very
yes.
much, John.
Thank you, everyone.